back to That Engineering Girl. Today I want to talk about this poem that I read recently, and before that, a small disclaimer: I am outside. You may hear cars go back and forth. It's just the weather is really nice, and I think it's very appropriate for what I want to talk about. So that is why we're sitting outside, enjoying the nice light rain and the slightly cool temperature. So with that disclaimer, what I want to talk about today is this poem that I heard recently. So recently, while I was at work, I came across this suggested video and I thought, hey, why don't we give it a try? It was on poems for difficult times, and I thought, you know what? I might learn something, which you all know is the only thing that I'm after. And can we just say that, boy, did I learn something. Definitely learned something. It was so good, the first poem that I heard, which I'll get into a second, that I heard it on repeat for hours that day. And the poem that I'm talking about is Defeat by Khalil Gibran, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyways, that's the poem that I heard, and that's the poem that I'm currently absolutely obsessed with and that I'm processing. So here I am sharing that poem with you because I think everybody deserves to hear these words and everybody needs to hear these words. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so first, my thoughts. I still don't know exactly how this poem makes me feel. I just haven't been able to come up with the right words to express the way it makes me feel. But what I can say is that when I hear this poem, it makes me just a little bit more comfortable with failure. It makes me just a little bit more comfortable with being wrong. And that is something that is really big for me because as an INTJ, I hate being wrong. I hate failing. It is my biggest fear, essentially, being wrong and failing. And so being able to feel like, hey, it's okay. It's honestly very, very moving, and I really do want to just express how much it makes me feel. Like, as a whole, it just makes me feel a lot, and I can't put it into words, like I said, but I hope that by, reading out this poem, which I'll get to in a second, you will be able to experience the same way that I'm experiencing it, and hopefully put it into better words than I'm able to put it into. But I came on here because I want you to hear it. That is what's important to me, is to have you hear it, because it's so wholesome and it's such a beautiful, beautiful poem. So I'm gonna pull in Nathaniel Drew, who is one of my favorite YouTubers, and I'm gonna read this poem to you all in the hopes that it affects you even just a little bit, the way it has affected me and the way it moves me every single time I hear it. So here's my attempt. Alright, so I have my laptop open and we're gonna get into this. So, defeat. My defeat. My solitude and my aloofness. You are dearer to me than 1,000 triumphs, and sweeter to my heart than all world glory. Defeat. My defeat. My self-knowledge and my defiance. Through you, I know that I am yet young and swift of foot, and not to be tracked by withering laurels. And in you I have found aloneness and the joy of being shunned and scorned. Defeat. My defeat. My shining sword and shield. In your eyes I have read that to be enthroned is to be enslaved, and to be understood is to be leveled down, and to be grasped is but to reach one's fullness, and like a ripe fruit, to fall and be consumed. Defeat, my defeat. My bold companion, you shall hear my songs and my cries and my silences, and none but you shall speak to me of the beating of wings and urging of seas and of mountains that burn in the night, and you alone shall climb my steep and rocky soul. Defeat, my defeat, my deathless courage. You and I shall laugh together with the storm, and together we shall dig graves for all that die in us, and we shall stand in the sun with a will, and we shall be dangerous. And that is Defeat by Khalil Gibran. Alright, so that was my attempt. I know there are much better, what's the word? Reciters out there on YouTube, so I highly suggest searching this up. It's a very moving poem, and I hope this recitation was somewhat enough to give you the experience that I have every single time I hear it. So hopefully you have thoughts on this. Please leave them in the comments down below, because I'd love to find the right words to express how this makes me feel. But overall, I do know that it makes me more comfortable with failure, which is really, really important to me as a person. So I wanted to come on here and share this, hopefully give you a different perspective on failure. And with that, I'm going to conclude this video and say, until next time.